Let's bring in Eli Kohanim, former State Department Deputy Special Envoy under President Trump. Eli, we've heard the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament threatening the United States if there is any kind of a military strike against that country. Should we be worried?
John, you know, we are at a very historic moment right now in President Trump's second administration.
Have they got anything to strike them? I thought the US already took out all of their nuclear and like ballistic missile sites. That was part of the thing. So surely Iran is just like the kind of guy that's had his stick broken in half and he's there still flailing the stub saying, "I'll get you."
Administration where for a host of factors, I believe we are looking at a potential Iranian regime collapse moment. This is no less historic than the fall of the Berlin Wall. And so for President Trump, the consideration right now is his legacy. Will he be the president that reshapes the Middle East to advance American national security goals? You know, when you look at Iran, what you understand is that this Iranian regime for 47 years has tried to push the United States out of the region. And so the collapse of the Iranian regime would be historic in that it would be a historic defeat for radical Islam. It would be a historic victory, not just for Western civilization, but for all civilization. And also you have to remember Iran is a big linchpin in that China, Russia, Iran axis. So taking Iran off of that chess plate really advances, again, America's interests. And
I think out of China, Russia and Iran is the least thing. Isn't it BRICS that they're part of? Belarus, something. China, Russia, Korea, Syria. I don't know. There's a group over there that was sort of formed by people that don't actually get along very well even. They're all interested in their own thing. As soon as one becomes a danger to the other, they will just ignore each other and kick each other out. They don't give a shit about each other properly. They're only doing it when they think that that person can push forward their goals. And it's funny how all the countries that have like a dictatorship, you know, forceful rule where the people are oppressed and they don't get actually a proper choice, even though they sometimes make it look like they do, they're the ones that are sticking together because obviously, you know, all the bullies in the schoolyard try and stick together. You know, yeah.
The other piece of it is that it would allow President Trump to achieve all of his goals for the region. You know, finally disarm Hamas and achieve his 20-point plan for Gaza.
Trump wants to turn Gaza into a fucking beach seaside resort. That's what he wants to do with Gaza. Which goes against the principles of what they want to live as, anyway. Gaza should be allowed to be a land for the Palestinians. Hamas need to be got out of there. Let it be run by the Palestinians. Where I don't think they like skimpy clothing, which, you know, every country has rules on certain things. Like in Thailand, you're not allowed to show your shoulders and stuff when you go into a temple. In, you know, over there, they might have certain rules. Obviously, they shouldn't stick to fundamentalist views on, you know, how women should be and everything. Everyone should have equal rights. Obviously, that's what we should all strive for. But I don't think Donald Trump should have a luxury resort over there, especially for when he comes out of power. Is he then going to keep control of Gaza? It's just not. It's an obvious play for money in that regard.
Normalization between the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and Israel. See a real lasting peace in the Middle East. Remember that when we look at that region, all of the destabilization, the terror proxy activity, all roads for 47 years have led back to Tehran. And that also, it hit even our own Western hemisphere. Remember that when President Trump took the bold action against Maduro in Venezuela, we heard that part of that logic was Hezbollah, Iran's terror proxy that had infiltrated right at our own doorstep. So again, we are at a very historic moment that as President Trump looks at his options, he is at this moment considering his legacy and how he can advance American national security interests finally, after 47 years, reversing that very poor judgment by Jimmy Carter, who helped usher in Khomeini and helped the downfall of the king at the time, the Shah in Iran. Now,
in defense of him, he didn't know that the new Ayatollah Khomeini was going to be a Iranian dictator based on, you know, turn it into a theocracy based on fundamental Islam. The king at the time, the current Shah, who's the father of the one that we want to put in now, he was a corrupt guy. He was being very harsh and rigging elections and being a dick as well. So he should have been overthrown, but not, it's cutting off your nose to spite your face. You got rid of the bad guy and replaced him with a worse guy who did the exact same things that bad guy was doing and more. The current guy, the Shah replacement, obviously the son of that guy who is looking to go over there. He's been in America for 50 years. He's very westernized. He's a fighter pilot. Well, he was. He was a fighter pilot, and he has Western values. He can go over there. He knows about democracy, and he knows, he'll play ball with the US, and he knows that if you mess with the US, and if you mess with the Iranian people, look what happens.
Now we're looking 47 years later, the 47th president can undo that historic Democrat mistake and help the Iranian people bring back that leader that would restore faith and confidence in their own government and help Iran, as we've been hearing in the news lately, make Iran great again.
Well, you might be talking about Reza Pahlavi. He is the crown prince in exile of Iran, the son of the deposed Shah there. Here's what he had to say about the situation.
We need to make sure that this time the Iranian people are successful. That kind of assistance will go a long way in letting the Iranian people prevail in this war that we have against this regime. And we need to cut the snake's head off for good, so it can no longer be a threat to Iranian interest, to American interest, to regional interest.
But there's no absolute guarantee that if this regime were to fall, that Reza Pahlavi would become the next leader of Iran.
John, that's absolutely true. But
well, yeah, it should fall. It's good for him to incite it, and then they should have a democratic vote. He shouldn't just go and install himself back as there. I know they're following him because he's supporting this revolution, and obviously he was a major part. The Shah's a major part of their history. But if he wants to truly do what he meant to do, he's agreed that he would have the votes as long as he sort of keeps going, let's get there first. I'm like, okay. But you really should set something in place that if this does work and I go in there as interim leader, you need to hold a democratic election immediately.
But I just want to share from the regional and the Iranian perspective, the way they see it is that 47 years ago, the Ayatollah Khomeini came in promising free housing and all kinds of free things. And the Iranian people were sold a false bill of goods by the far left and the radical Islamists in Iran. And the Shah was deposed again with Jimmy Carter's blessing. So the way they look at it is that the crown prince in exile, his return to Iran, and that's the chanting we hear on the streets, corrects a mistake, a historical mistake made 47 years ago. He is the only trusted personality. He's the only name you hear chanted in Iran. He has said he's willing to be a leader of a transition in partnership with the United States and the West to help make sure that there isn't chaos in any kind of a regime collapse scenario, helping to avoid the Iraq chaos that we all witnessed. And so, he's kind of the trusted personality. The Iranian people are asking for him. And it corrects a historical mistake. The Shah was deposed. His son comes back. There is a historicity to that is what the Iranian people are chanting for his name every.
Yeah, okay. Right, that's something. Let's have a look what's going on with the BBC. What do they claim under here?
Iran's foreign minister claims that his country's security forces have brought anti-government protests under control following 2 weeks of unrest across the country. Human rights campaigners say nearly 500 protesters have been killed so far, with thousands more detained. There's evidence of bodies being piled up at morgues. President Trump says the United States is considering what he calls very strong options on intervening in the crisis. Iran says it is prepared for war if the United States intervenes.
But Iran's got nothing left to do. Iran's, like I said, you've already chopped off the head of the snake. You've already got rid of their nuclear facilities. They've got some missiles, but they've already sent near enough everything they've got to Israel. And that wasn't enough.
Joe Inwood has the latest.
Faced with its biggest challenge in years, it was not always clear how the Iranian regime would respond to these protests. The bodies in this makeshift morgue leave little room for doubt. They have used extreme violence on the protesters. The death toll is impossible to calculate. But the BBC has counted at least 180 bodies in this one location.
Tehran is
Damn.
horrifying. More than 2,000 people killed. Forget every figure the Islamic Republic has released. We are facing an entirely new scale.
Getting testimony from the people who are taking part in these protests is difficult and dangerous. But people have spoken to the BBC's Persian service. We are protecting their identities for fear of regime reprisals.
It's like a war zone. The streets are full of blood. They're taking away bodies in trucks. Everyone is frightened tonight. They're carrying out a massacre here. It's officially a massacre.
Yeah, well, there have been loads of videos, haven't there, of the police and army just shooting, opening fire randomly into the crowd. And then there's some sort of secret police people, they state, that are pointing out and choosing select people to be shot so they can use them as proof. But it doesn't look, looking at this with them all dancing around, it doesn't look like they might be scared, but they're also hopeful for the future, which is a big thing for them. Hope is a massive thing when there's some sort of regime change like this. Because what the Iranian government want is to be able to shoot people, kill people, and have that control them with fear. They want them. They want the Iranian people to fear them, because once they're feared, that's when they can do whatever they want, and then people are too scared to actually do anything.
So, what response from the man who promised to attack the regime if protesters were killed?
There seem to be some people killed that aren't supposed to be killed. These are violent, if you call them leaders, I don't know if they're leaders or just they rule through violence. But we're looking at it very seriously. The military is looking at it. And we're looking at some very strong options. We'll make a determination.
Exactly what those strong options are is not yet clear, but Iran's leadership has said it will defend itself.
You asked whether a preemptive operation is on our agenda. It is not. We do not want war, but we are completely ready for it. We are even more prepared than before the last war, and the reason for that is obvious.
I don't think you're very ready, because as I said, you've just been neutered. You're not ready for war. You've got a load of radicals on your side, but nothing ready for war. Half your population's currently protesting the
These last few
issue.
days have seriously threatened the clerical rule of this country. Their strategy now seems to be threefold.
Clerical.
To get their supporters on the streets. Counter-demonstrations have been shown on TV around the country.
Yep.
To suggest that life is returning to normal. This footage, broadcast on Chinese state TV, was taken at a shop in Tehran.
Of course, China's like, no, nothing's right. The people cannot revolt. Look, if the people revolt, it goes back to normal straight quickly. They're not right. They're not right, because the last thing China wants is for their people to revolt, isn't it?
And, of course, the use of extreme violence against the protesters.
Yep.
These security forces in the southern city of Kazarun seemingly shoot indiscriminately. And it is this final tactic which has been the most brutally effective. Trying to bring down this
we
government
want
is always
power.
going
We'll
to be
kill anyone that
difficult
doesn't let us
and
keep this power.
dangerous. But the youth of Iran have shown they want change and
Good.
are willing to make huge sacrifices to achieve it.
Yep.
Joe Inwood, BBC News.
Yep.
Well, let's speak live to Alex Vatanka, who's Senior Fellow at the Middle East Institute. Thank you for being with us. We've seen protests look like definitive uprisings before.
What's this little tough doing here? Got a little island? Just shave it, mate. Shave it. I think you wouldn't look too bad bald. Just shave it all off.
Or is this different, do you think?
Matthew, great to be with you. Look, I think it is different in a couple of reasons. Number one is I cannot remember Iranian society being this hopeless. I mean, it's not just the sanctions. Obviously, there are a huge burden on ordinary Iranians, and they've been going on for decades. It's if you're in Iran and you listen to the top political voice, in this case, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, you hear a man essentially who has no way out.
Well, yeah, he's backed into a corner. He's literally scared now because there's no going back from this. The Iranian people there's a revolution going on. They're revolting. You can't just go back to nothing now. You would have to kill half the population and then force them to forget. There's no going back from it. You are stuck with the fact that they are not happy. And so far, there's no hint that your two friends, China and Russia, are coming to help you. You're fucked. And at the moment, it's a dying animal kicking out and hoping somehow he'll be left alone, but it's dying anyway. It's rather the USA will get him, the people will find him, because they've already killed a colonel. They've already gone in and found a colonel where he lives, one of the people that was in charge of people getting shot, and he's already killed him. Like, the protesters have found his home, gone there, and they've offed him. So, you know, if he wants to live, if the leader wants to live, he has to resign and go into exile, but he won't do that. He still believes he's in the right. He's got this radical people going on motorbikes, going around shooting indiscriminately, as was just shown on the video. It's just ridiculous.
Who keep saying that things are going to continue, we're going to stay on this path. And again, that suggests years of more pain and misery. And I think that was one of the factors that brought people back. I know the latest trigger was sort of economic.
So they say 500, but I think the number's over 2,000 was the actual one that come out. But you'll never get the true figure because it's like media blackout over there, isn't it?
With the currency of the real collapsing. But it's about the hopelessness. It's about, I think, the wide demand in Iranian society for structural changes. Hence, you know, we see the protesters shouting one day about the real's value dropping to very...
Yeah, it went from, I think, in 2010, the real went from $1 to 10,000 of their reals. And right now, it's $1 to 1.3 million reals. Like, complete economic collapse. Nothing is worth it. Like, I can't blame them for being unhappy about that. But the problem is, some media, if they don't want to be labelled Islamophobic, they are jumping on, oh, this is solely about the economic downfall. That's all they care about. They don't care about the fact that it's a theocracy being run by a fundamental Islamist. You know, it's both. It's not one, it's not the other. It's a mixture of everything. They're just fed up with how it's run. They want better rights for everybody. So they're getting out there and they're actually standing up for themselves.
Quickly turning their attention to what they think is the key issue, which is the rule of Ali Khamenei. And that... Yes. We've seen it in the past, but this time around, it really...
There's no harmony, not
Ali Khamenei is a target, and that in itself makes it special.
And in the coming days, what will be crucial? Will it be the capacity to stay on the streets, or what Donald Trump decides to do?
In terms of capacity, Matthew, Iran, as we just heard in the segment, has dealt with rounds of protesters going back to the early 1990s. But what they have done in the past is they usually contain the situation after a few days, in some cases weeks. If these protests continue for weeks and perhaps months to come, it's a huge question mark if the security forces in Iran have the capacity to keep cracking down. Mind you, this isn't just happening in a single location. These are happening in 70, 80 locations across a nation 3 times the size of France.
Oh, the whole place is going. And it's even happening, like, people are supporting her everywhere. In the UK, people have went to the Iranian embassy in the UK and took down the Iranian flag to put up the one of peace sort of thing because they don't agree with it. People are burning the Ayatollah's image and everything because the women who want rights. They're not wearing the hijab, which they insist you have to wear over there. And they're, you know, lighting cigarettes because you're not allowed to smoke. And they're burning. Well, I'm not sure on the smoking one, but then they're burning all the images of him, which I presume is against their law as well.
So it's a huge undertaking.
Follow the leader.
In terms of President Trump, we have to wait and see. The big question mark is this: is he looking at these protests as leverage, as something he can use to bargain for a better nuclear deal, but essentially accepting that the regime stays in place? That's the one question that.
But there isn't a nuclear deal anymore. You've already killed off all the nuclear stuff.
Listen, you could be the Ronald Reagan of your time. Iran essentially is the Soviet Union of sorts, or this is the Berlin Wall falling moment. What happens in Iran could have great impact in the rest of the Middle East, that you should not cut a deal with this regime. You should go for a creative way to end its life. Again, which way Donald Trump goes remains to be seen.
Well, tell me more. If it is the second option, the implications for the wider region if this Islamic Republic falls?
Look, if the Islamic Republic falls, let's go back. Islamism as we know it, militant Islamism, was essentially born in 1979 with the Islamic Republic, with people like Ali Khamenei coming to power. Today, they have no legitimacy left in Iran. And you could say they're weak and they've lost their way in the region. And the fall of the regime would be essentially be the end of this political Islamist experiment over the last half a century. So I have no doubt it will have ramifications and be echoing around, just not in the Middle East, but perhaps even the wider Islamic world. It's a big...
Yep. Absolutely destroyed. Not much else to go.
Iran has warned that it'll retaliate if attacked by America, following 2 weeks of widespread anti-regime protests and threats by the US to strike over the killing of protesters. There's been a brutal response by the Iranian authorities. One human rights group says it's verified almost 500 deaths. The protests, which were sparked by soaring inflation, have spread to more than 100 cities and towns across every province in Iran. The country's president, Masoud Pezeshkian, has claimed the unrest is being manipulated by his country's enemies, and the government has called for nationwide marches tomorrow in support of the regime. Lise Doucette's report contains some
well, that'll be
images
news tomorrow.
that
That'll be
may
something
find
to watch.
distressing.
Mashhad, Iran's holiest city. Now it burns with a different fervor.
Holiest and
The
now
hometown of
scorched.
Iran's supreme leader, a place where protesters want his clerical rule to die. Across Iran, the anger boils.
I don't believe anywhere in the world should be ruled as a theocracy. Nowhere should be ruled as a religious thing, because probably because of my own personal views on religion, but it's places should be ruled on morals and not on religious beliefs, because religious beliefs lead people down indoctrination and to look down on other people who don't follow the same beliefs when they go down it adamantly. Anywhere that goes by it, there's no country that has been ruled purely through religious fundamentalism and, you know, as a theocracy that has ever turned out well. It's, you know, it ends up like this because near enough every single religion restricts people in a certain way, even Christianity, Catholicism, all that. There are restrictions it puts on people. Now, it's okay having a country that has a state religion, so, you know, Iran will probably continue being a majority Muslim Islam country, but it shouldn't be run as a theocracy where the entire government and everything is run based on religious sect and laws. You should have the choice if you want to follow it or not be forced to. That's the difference, really.
Tehran in the north, Kerman in the south. The roar of the crowds, the boom of the guns.
The boom of the guns.
But courage has a cost in Iran, a huge cost. This forecourt is full, ground zero of grief. It's an open-air morgue.
A lot of body bags.
We've tried to count these
death.
body bags. There's at least 180 here. And the trucks keep coming.
Because the thing is, Iran doesn't give a shit. The leader wants to stay in power, and he will kill whoever he needs to stay in power. They rule by threats and people being scared. They don't rule by compassion or people liking them.
The government is also burying their dead. Coffins carrying police and civilians carried by the crowds. The presenter on state TV lists 10 provinces where they fell. Killed, she says, in terrorist acts committed by the US and Israel.
Okay, yeah, okay.
Death to America, MPs shouted in Parliament today.
If that's not a declaration of war, what is? You've got the Parliament, the ruling body of a country, shouting death to America, violently shaking their fists on a state TV broadcast.
The speaker had a warning for President Trump, who's been threatening to attack Iran again.
So that you are not miscalculating, know that in the case of an attack on Iran, Israel, as well as US military bases in the region, will be our legitimate targets.